Hello and welcome to our video on shadow integration techniques. In this beginner's guide, we'll be exploring the power of shadow work and how it can help us better understand ourselves and our place in the world. Let's first discuss what shadow integration is and why it's crucial. The shadow, according to Jungian psychology, is the area of the unconscious mind that houses all the traits and attributes we don't consciously identify with. These can be both positive traits that we may have repressed or rejected, as well as bad traits like wrath, jealousy, and fear. When a person acknowledges that they have values, desires, and needs built into them, they have achieved shadow integration. They make the decision to embrace those needs and carefully and methodically feed them. The individual gets control over their shadow side and increases their strength by enabling those cravings to be satisfied. A person who is completely balanced has incredible strength. They have self-control and are aware of what they want and do not want. Exploring and integrating the shadow is an essential part of personal growth and self-discovery. By bringing the shadow into consciousness, we can gain insight into our own motivations, behaviors, and patterns, and learn how to live a more authentic and fulfilling life. In this video, we'll be covering everything you need to know to get started with shadow integration. We'll define the shadow self and discuss its role in Jungian psychology, provide tips for how to begin the shadow integration process, and introduce a variety of techniques for integrating the shadow. Whether you're new to shadow work or looking to deepen your practice, this video has something for you. So let's get started. In Jungian psychology, the term shadow self refers to the unconscious element of the psyche, which is made up of features, behaviors, and urges that are not typically recognized by a person's conscious mind. The shadow self is frequently viewed as being opposed to the conscious ego and is thought to reflect the unconscious, instinctive, and evil part of a person's psyche. The shadow self is regarded in Jungian psychology as a crucial aspect of the psyche that must be acknowledged and integrated in order for a person to be whole and self-aware. Ignoring or denying the existence of the shadow self can lead to psychological problems and may result in an individual acting out their unconscious desires in negative ways. According to Jung, the shadow self can contain both positive and negative traits, and it is up to the individual to recognize and accept both the light and dark aspects of their personality. By acknowledging and embracing the shadow self, an individual can gain a greater understanding of themselves and become more self-aware and self-accepting. To integrate the shadow self, an individual must recognize and accept both the light and dark aspects of their personality. This process can be difficult and may require the help of a therapist or other trusted individual. However, by acknowledging and embracing the shadow self, an individual can gain a greater understanding of themselves and become more self-aware and self-accepting. In Jungian psychology, the shadow self is seen as the unconscious aspect of the personality that is composed of the traits, behaviors, and impulses that are not generally accepted by the conscious mind. The shadow self is often associated with negative traits such as aggression, anger, envy, and selfishness, but it can also contain positive traits such as creativity, intuition, and spontaneity. The shadow self is different from the conscious self in that it is not under the control of the conscious mind. It is comprised of unconscious thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that are outside of an individual's awareness. The shadow self is often in opposition to the conscious ego and may be at odds with an individual's conscious values and beliefs. One way to think about the difference between the shadow self and the conscious self is to consider the metaphor of the iceberg. The conscious self is like the tip of the iceberg that is visible above the water, while the shadow self is like the larger portion of the iceberg that is hidden beneath the water. The shadow self represents the unconscious mind and all of the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that are not generally accepted by the conscious ego. Integrating the shadow self can lead to greater psychological health and well-being. It can also lead to a greater sense of authenticity and can improve relationships with others by allowing an individual to be more open and honest about their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. If you want to learn more about what is shadow self, I have already uploaded a video explaining everything about shadow self. You can watch it by visiting my channel, or I will also put the link of that video in the description and also in the comment section. There are several steps that an individual can take to begin the process of exploring and integrating their shadow self. Step 1. Increase self-awareness. The first step in the shadow integration process is to become more aware of the unconscious thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that make up the shadow self. This may involve engaging in activities that promote self-reflection, such as journaling or meditation. Step 2. Reflect on your shadow traits. The next step is to begin identifying and reflecting on the specific traits that make up your shadow self. This may include negative traits such as anger, aggression, or envy, as well as positive traits such as creativity and intuition. Step 3. Reflect on the origins of your shadow traits. Once you have identified your shadow traits, it can be helpful to reflect on where these traits came from. This may involve exploring your past experiences and how they may have shaped your unconscious thoughts and behaviors. Step 4. Accept and embrace your shadow traits. The next step is to accept and embrace both the positive and negative aspects of your shadow self. This involves acknowledging and owning both the light and dark aspects of your personality. Step 5. Integrate your shadow traits into your conscious self. The final step in the shadow integration process is to integrate your shadow traits into your conscious self. This may involve learning to express your shadow traits in healthy and appropriate ways and finding ways to incorporate them into your daily life. It is important to note that the shadow integration process can be difficult and may require the help of a therapist or other trusted individual. It may also be a long and ongoing process that requires patience and persistence. Self-reflection and self-awareness are important aspects of shadow work, which is the process of exploring and integrating the shadow self in Jungian psychology. The shadow self is the unconscious aspect of the personality that is composed of the traits, behaviors, and impulses that are not generally accepted by the conscious mind. Self-reflection involves taking time to reflect on one's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors and examining them in an objective and non-judgmental way. It is a crucial part of shadow work because it helps an individual to become more aware of the unconscious thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that make up their shadow self. Self-awareness, on the other hand, refers to an individual's ability to recognize and understand their own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors and how they affect themselves and others. It is also an important aspect of shadow work because it allows an individual to gain a deeper understanding of themselves and to become more self-aware and self-accepting. Both self-reflection and self-awareness are important tools in shadow work because they allow an individual to gain insight into their unconscious mind. There are several techniques that can be helpful for integrating the shadow self in Jungian psychology. Some of these techniques include: Number 1. Journaling. Writing about your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors can be a helpful way to become more aware of your shadow self and to gain insight into the unconscious mind. Writing about your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors can be a helpful way to process and make sense of your experiences. It can also help you to become more aware of your unconscious thoughts and feelings and to gain insight into the shadow self. Some people may find it difficult to express their thoughts and feelings on paper, and it can be challenging to be honest and open about one's innermost thoughts and feelings. Number 2. Visualization. Using visualization techniques, such as guided imagery or creative visualization, can be a helpful way to explore the shadow self and to gain a deeper understanding of your unconscious mind. Visualization techniques can be helpful for exploring the shadow self because they allow you to use your imagination to enter into a dialogue with the unconscious mind. They can also be helpful for promoting relaxation and reducing stress. Some people may find it difficult to visualize or may struggle with staying focused during visualization exercises. Number 3. Dream work. Paying attention to your dreams and reflecting on their meanings can be a helpful way to gain insight into the shadow self. Dreams can be a rich source of information about the unconscious mind and can provide valuable insights into one's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. It can be challenging to remember and interpret dreams, and some people may be resistant to exploring their unconscious mind through dream work. Number 4. Creative expression. Engaging in creative activities such as art, writing, or music can be a helpful way to explore and express the shadow self. It can also be a therapeutic way to process emotions and to gain a deeper understanding of the unconscious mind. Some people may struggle with creativity or may feel self-conscious about expressing themselves creatively. Number 5. Role-playing. Role-playing exercises can be a helpful way to explore and express different aspects of the shadow self. They can also be a fun and engaging way to learn more about oneself and to gain a deeper understanding of the unconscious mind. Some people may feel self-conscious or uncomfortable with role-playing, and it can be challenging to fully express and explore the shadow self in this way. Number 6. Shadow work with a therapist. Working with a therapist who is trained in shadow work can be a helpful way to explore and integrate the shadow self. A therapist can provide a safe and supportive environment for this work and can offer guidance and support throughout the process. Some people may feel anxious or resistant to exploring the shadow self with a therapist, and it can be challenging to be open and honest about one's unconscious thoughts and feelings. Number 7. Meditation. Meditation can be a helpful way to quiet the mind and become more aware of your unconscious thoughts and feelings. It can be especially helpful for exploring the shadow self because it allows you to focus inward and pay attention to your inner experience. It can be helpful for promoting relaxation and reducing stress. Some people may find it difficult to quiet their mind or may struggle with staying focused during meditation. It can also be challenging to incorporate meditation into a daily routine. Number 8. Body work. Techniques such as yoga, tai chi, or dance can be helpful for exploring and expressing the shadow self because they involve the body and can help to release emotions and energy that may be stored in the unconscious mind. Some people may feel self-conscious or uncomfortable with body work, and it can be challenging to fully express and explore the shadow self in this way. Number 9. Self-inquiry. Asking yourself questions about your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors can be a helpful way to gain insight into the shadow self. This may involve asking yourself why you feel or behave in certain ways or exploring the roots of your unconscious beliefs and behaviors. This can help you to become more self-aware and self-accepting. Some people may find it difficult to be honest with themselves or may struggle with self-inquiry. It can also be challenging to fully explore the unconscious mind through self-inquiry. Number 10. Active imagination. Active imagination is a technique developed by Jung in which an individual enters into a dialogue with the unconscious mind through their imagination. This can be a helpful way to explore and express the shadow self and to gain a deeper understanding of the unconscious mind. Some people may find it difficult to access their imagination or may struggle with staying focused during active imagination exercises. It can also be challenging to fully explore and express the shadow self through active imagination. Number 11. Ritual and symbol work. Engaging in ritual or using symbols can be a helpful way to explore and express the shadow self because they allow for a non-verbal expression of unconscious thoughts and feelings. Some people may be resistant to using symbols or engaging in ritual, and it can be challenging to fully express and explore the shadow self in this way. It can also be difficult to interpret the meaning of symbols and rituals. By using these techniques, you can begin to explore and integrate your shadow self and gain a deeper understanding of yourself and your unconscious mind. It may be a long and ongoing process that requires patience and persistence. It is important to choose techniques that are appropriate and helpful for your personal journey of exploring and integrating the shadow self. Some factors to consider when choosing techniques include personal preference, goals, comfort level, available resources, and professional guidance. For example, if you enjoy creative expression, techniques such as art, writing, or music may be more appealing to you. Alternatively, if you are looking to gain insight into your unconscious mind, techniques such as journaling, dream work, or self-inquiry may be helpful. It is important to choose techniques that you feel comfortable with and that do not cause undue stress or anxiety. Additionally, consider the resources that are available to you, such as time, money, and support, and choose techniques that are practical and feasible given your current circumstances. If you are struggling to choose techniques, or if you are unsure of what techniques may be most helpful, it can be helpful to seek guidance from a therapist or other mental health professional. They can provide guidance and support as you navigate the shadow integration process. It is important to approach shadow work with an open and non-judgmental attitude and to be gentle and compassionate with oneself during the process. It is also important to remember that the shadow self is not all negative, and it is important to acknowledge and embrace both the positive and negative aspects of the shadow self. That's all for today's video. If you liked my effort, please hit the like button, give feedback in the comment section, and do subscribe to this channel. Leave a comment below with the topic you'd like me to cover in a next video. Thanks.